to the Spotlight. If this is your first time here, you should know that the Spotlight is simply a way to engage with God and to see some aspect of your life a little bit better based on His promises. Essentially, we take one central concept, one big idea, and we shine the light of God's gospel on it using the lenses of worshiping, learning, and serving. To talk about this week's Spotlight and what the theme is, I'm going to throw it over to my friend Matt, who pastors a church called The Way in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Thanks, Kent. This week's Spotlight is going to focus on the idea of how God's people interact with God and His love for us, especially when things are different from the way they used to be. God's people have been here before. In the Old Testament book of Jeremiah, God's people are in Babylonian exile. They're geographically, physically, and socially distant from their people, their tribe, their way of life, and their way of worship. They had doubts and they had fears. Maybe you can relate. In this moment, though, God sent His prophet Jeremiah to His people to turn their uncertainty into confidence. God reminded His people it could be worse, but God could not be better. This is what God said to him. He said, "When 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill my gracious promise to bring you back to this place. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." It could be worse, but God could not be better. And in fact, God had more to say to His people. He told them, instead of just twiddling their thumbs and wishing away the 70 years they were in Babylon, that they were to rely on His promises. And above all, they were to make sure while they were in captivity, their numbers didn't decrease. In fact, they were to increase. God said to them, "Marry and have sons and daughters, and find wives for your sons and daughters, and give your daughters in marriage. Increase in number there, and do not decrease." In other words, they were to seize the moment they found themselves in and use it as an opportunity to grow. Will you relate? Here's our challenge for all of you. What would it look like if these next weeks, while we were in, coronavirus captivity, we use them as an opportunity to grow? Let's seize the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe more, and use them as an opportunity to come together and grow in the grace of God. It could be worse, but God could not be better. Let me introduce to you my friend, Pastor Nate. He's a pastor at Illumine Church in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
We call it social distancing or quarantine, but really, it's exile. Now, we could say the coronavirus carried us into exile, or the government did, or health officials did, or medical experts did, but the reality is, no matter who carried us here, here we are. And I don't know how long this reality is going to last, but I do know this: the devil would love for coronavirus to cause you to become socially and spiritually distant and exiled from your faith family and from your God. But our God has given us the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, I don't know how long. He's given them to us as an opportunity to actually grow closer to each other and closer to Him, to come out the other side of this stronger than we are right now. God's love, His forgiveness, all of His promises, in other words, the gospel, it cannot be completely contained in anything. But at the same time, God's good news, it always comes to you, it comes to us in a container. Now, the container for the next weeks is going to be different. Maybe you are used to going to a place on Sunday morning to hear God's promises, to sing songs of worship, and speak your faith with a bunch of other people. Now, you're likely at home, alone or just with family. But God is still here. He's still with you, and He is still giving us His good news, His gospel. Now again, it'll be different, don't get me wrong, because there's no welcoming each other in person, there's no handshakes, no hugs, no high fives, no walking toward each other with a huge grin on your face. But here we are, gathering remotely, hundreds of people, thousands of miles apart at different times of day, and yet we're together. It could be worse, but God could not be better. Now back to Kent in Seattle.
So, even though we couldn't greet you at the door, Matt and Nathan and I want you to know that it's good for you to be here, and that we believe that over the course of the next hour or so, you're going to have the chance to gain spiritual rest through the promises of God. You're going to gain spiritual wisdom as He shows you His truths, and you're going to gain spiritual purpose as He leads you to love as He has already loved you. All you've got to do is keep scrolling down, reading the instructions, doing what they say, watching the videos and listening to the prompts, and giving your attention to God, and He will not waste it. We promise. And even though this is a little bit different and a new thing for most of you, we want you to know that God isn't, showing up to this unprepared in any way. He's not like a 6th grade kid who forgot he had a science project due today, and he never ever comes into a situation with just a good enough to get by kind of solution. God is here, and His promises are real and relevant and practical and perfect for you. They are above and beyond your wildest expectations. We had a blast, and we were blessed putting this together for you this week, and we believe the same will be true for you, not because of us, but because of God and God alone.